On the evening of November 5, 1975, 7 men were driving home through a pine forest in eastern Arizona. They were loggers, exhausted, done with the day, ready for dinner. It was a night just like any other. Then one of them saw a light in the trees. And 22-year-old Travis Walton made a decision that would follow him and the 6 men in that truck for the rest of their lives. He told the driver to stop. He opened the door. And he walked toward the light. Travis Walton was 22 years old, a hard-working logger from Snowflake, Arizona. He was part of a 7-man crew led by Mike Rogers, the foreman that had been contracted to thin trees in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest, about 20 miles from the town of Show Low. They were a tight group. They'd spent weeks together in the woods, cutting timber, sweating, sharing meals. They trusted each other the way men who work in the forest do. That November evening, the crew was finishing its drive home along a remote forest road. The sun had gone down. The truck's headlights cut through the gathering dark. And then, ahead of them, hovering over a clearing, something impossible. The men saw a glowing disk. A wide, flattened object, hovering silently a few feet above the ground, maybe 50 feet from the road. It was emitting a soft, amber-white light bright enough to illuminate the trees around it. There was no sound. No engine. No rotor. Just a presence, hanging there. Inside the truck, the crew was frozen. Some of them would later say they felt it was a spacecraft. Others just stared, trying to understand what they were seeing. Travis Walton had no such hesitation. He said to this day he insists he said, "Let's get a closer look." And he got out of the truck. Walton walked toward the object, alone, in the dark. He was within maybe 15 or 20 feet of it when everything changed. Later, he described it like this: a beam of light shot out from the object, not a beam he could see coming, but one that was simply there, suddenly. It struck him in the chest. He felt a violent force, like being hit by a truck. His body was lifted off the ground and thrown backward about 10 feet, he said, and then he was out. Inside the truck, the crew watched it happen. They saw their friend blasted by a beam of light and thrown to the ground. And then, terror took over. Mike Rogers, the foreman, floored the accelerator and drove. The truck tore down the forest road as fast as it would go. The crew was screaming. Nobody looked back. For several minutes, they just drove until the panic settled just enough for guilt to set in. They had left their friend. They had to go back. They turned the truck around and drove back to the clearing. The object was gone. And so was Travis Walton. The crew reported the disappearance that same night. Sheriff Marlon Gillespie of Navajo County took the report and he didn't believe a word of it. Neither did most of the town. 7 men, a wild story, a missing friend with no body. The obvious answer, to most people, was murder. The sheriff suspected the crew had killed Walton and disposed of the body, and the UFO story was a cover-up. For days, the search went on. Volunteers combed the forest. Authorities questioned the crew relentlessly, separately, repeatedly, looking for cracks in their story. And the cracks never came. The 6 men told the same story, over and over, with the same details, the same fear. But Travis Walton was gone. And as the days stretched on, the suspicion grew darker. On the evening of November 10, 5 days after the beam of light, a disoriented man appeared at a gas station in Heber, Arizona. It was Travis Walton. He was exhausted. He was scared. He told the people there that he had been taken, that he had spent those 5 days inside the craft. His account was strange, fragmented, and impossible to verify. He described waking up inside a room with curved walls, being examined by small, pale beings with large heads and dark eyes. He described a human-looking figure in a clear helmet who led him through the craft. And he described being overwhelmed, passing out again, and waking up on a highway watching a dark, silent object lift away into the night sky. The gas station called the police. And Travis Walton was finally home. What happened next made the case impossible to dismiss and impossible to close. Travis Walton agreed to take a polygraph test, a lie detector. He passed. Mike Rogers, the foreman who had driven the truck, also took a test. He passed. The other crew members were tested too, with results that supporters and skeptics still argue about today. But the core claim that the crew saw something that night, and that Travis Walton's disappearance was real, never broke under questioning. A man who passed a lie detector, backed by 6 men who never changed their story. And yet, there was a problem. A reason for the story. A motive. Skeptics, most famously the investigator Philip Klass, pointed out that the logging crew was in serious trouble with their contract. They were behind schedule, facing financial penalties. Klass argued that the entire incident was a hoax, a fake abduction designed to generate publicity, or to escape the contract, with Walton hiding for 5 days and the crew lying to back him up. The timing, the money, the contract pressure, it all lined up, according to the skeptics. Walton and the crew have denied it for 50 years. Walton wrote a book, The Walton Experience, and sold the film rights, which became the 1993 movie Fire in the Sky. And that's where the case sits, forever, a polygraph passing victim, 6 consistent witnesses, a genuine mystery, and a plausible motive that poisons every claim. Half a century later, the Travis Walton case is still one of the most famous UFO incidents in American history. It's been investigated, debated, debunked, and defended. The movie made it a cultural landmark. The forest where it happened still draws visitors. But the core question has never been answered. Was Travis Walton taken by something that night in 1975? Or did 7 men, 6 of whom never cracked, one of whom passed a lie detector, invent the most elaborate hoax in Arizona history? The beam of light. The 5 days. The return. 50 years later, the forest keeps its secrets.